Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Talking Cardboard. As always, my name is Cory, and on today's episode, I am really excited because I am going to be talking about 5 board games that I can't stop thinking about. Let's get to the first one here. Brass Birmingham, I can't stop thinking about it because it's my number 1 favorite game of all time, but that can't be right. I need some sort of qualifications or criteria set here. Otherwise, this is just going to be a video of my top 5 favorite board games of all time, and that would be extremely boring because most of you who have been watching the channel now for a while already know what my top 5 favorite board games of all time are. So let's try this side. Rurik Dawn of Kiev. It's another one of my favorite board games of all time. This isn't working. I mean, what am I gonna do if I can't show you games that I can't stop thinking about? But I mean, what kind of criteria should I set here? I mean, maybe games that I've only played once or twice at the most, and games that I don't own. That's another good criteria. Let's see if this works. Smartphone Inc. I can't stop thinking about it. It's not like super high up on my top favorite games of all time, but it is a game that I think about quite often, and I wish I had more gamers in my group willing to play Smartphone more often with me, but this is another game I own, so it just doesn't qualify. Let's try up here. This isn't working. Let's just get started. I don't know, guys. The snapping of the fingers trick just wasn't working. We're gonna have to try something different. As always, if you like the channel, please consider subscribing. We really appreciate it. Like the video and comment below if you have any questions or comments that you would like us to respond to. So getting right into it, let's actually just talk about the games I can't stop thinking about that I don't have in my collection. And like I said in the intro, the other criteria I have are games that I've only played once or maybe twice at the most and that I still don't own, but I can't stop thinking about these games. These are just games that really fit that criteria that I wouldn't mind having them in my personal collection. So let's start with number 5. All right, and my number 5 is a game that my brother owns and that I've only played one time, but it's a game I really can't stop thinking about after playing it that one time. It's an older game by Red Raven Games and designer and illustrator Ryan Lockett, and it's probably one of the least popular games in his lineup now because I know it is such an old title at this point, but this game is Above and Below. The core gameplay mechanisms in Above and Below are just kind of worker placement, but it does it in a couple of unique ways that I really enjoy. First of all, the workers that you're gathering into your crew to send out and do different actions for you have some strengths and weaknesses to them. So it's not just every worker has the same amount of strength that you're sending out. Each one has some variability to that. And you are developing your group of explorers or your group of people throughout the game to get better and better explorers. And what makes that also kind of fun and unique is that you have to gather cards that have beds on them, because when you send your workers to bed, they get enough rest to then go out and explore for you the next day. But if you don't have enough beds for all of your explorers, you then can't send, obviously, all of your explorers out the same day all at once. You have to pick and choose who you're sending to bed to get their rest and who will not be getting their rest for that night. The other thing that's really cool with Above and Below, and is true with a lot of Ryan Lockett games, Red Raven Games, Ryan Lockett designer, is the story element to the game. As you're sending out the workers, as stated in the name of the game, Above and Below, you can choose whether or not you're exploring above the surface of the ground or if you're going down into the depths or into the cave system to explore down there. And when you go down to explore in the caves, it is a little bit more stressful and a little bit more going on. You don't know exactly what you're going to run into down there. It's a lot more dangerous. And with that, when you're going out and exploring these different cards, it'll have a numerical value on the card that tells you which paragraph out of this booklet to read. And based on that paragraph you're reading in the storyline, it'll give you different options to try to succeed at the end of that paragraph. So for example, if you have a real strong crew that is strong in combat, you can maybe push your luck a little bit further with the reward system with with what you're exploring. The trick is, though, too, is the person to your right is the person who's actually reading the paragraph to you and giving you your options. So before you choose which option you're going to try to succeed at, you don't know what reward you're going after until you either fail or succeed at that mission. So it's a really unique, cool game. Still stands up to today. I know it is a little bit older at this point, and I'm very late to the game at giving this one a try, but Above and Below is definitely a game that I can't stop thinking about. Okay, and number 4 is another board game that my brother owns, the same brother who owns Above and Below, so kind of a common theme going on here, but is another game that I can't stop thinking about. And it's a game that I was actually surprised I liked after playing it the one time I got a chance to play it. And this game is Cloudspire. Cloudspire is a game by Chip Theory Games. And although Chip Theory Games is a very popular publisher among many people, I know obviously from what I see online, all their games get high ratings. They have very high production quality, a fantastic publisher, and honestly, my brother who owns Cloudspire is a huge fanboy of Chip Theory Games as well. And normally, Chip Theory games just don't really resonate with my play style, but for whatever reason, Cloudspire, just played it one time and I can't stop thinking about it because it was just that much fun, and that it was just such a cool game the way they did everything. It was kind of marketed to be a MOBA style game, so like a multiplayer online battle arena, large scale game where you've got like these minions that are marching around, and you've got your own heroes that you're throwing out onto the map, and you're trying to take over your opponent's base, and they're trying to take over your base, and it was kind of marketed that way. But really, the overall feel that I got after playing it the one time was more of like a real-time strategy game, like a StarCraft or like a Warcraft, like the original Warcraft games, kind of more of that feel where you're building up your troops and your units, and you're building up your buildings better, you're building towers on the map, and you're sending them out to go try to attack your opponent's base. It didn't really have as much of that MOBA feel that I was told it was supposed to kind of feel like. Definitely more of the real-time strategy, but I have been longing for a game like the StarCraft computer game for a long time, and I think Cloudspire really delivers on that front. It's also really cool in this game too because you are kind of teching up and upgrading your different units down various paths. So depending on what path you choose to take for that particular game, your gameplay could play out a lot differently that time than it would the next time you play the game. Even if you're using the same race or the same faction, that next game or the following games, you can go down different tech paths that make your army feel completely different. And it also is really fun because that plays into the strategy in the game. Because depending on what your opponent or your opponents are doing, which is really cool too, you can play against multiple people at the same time, you can pivot your strategy or decide to go down a different technology path each time you play in response to how they are playing their faction. So Cloudspire, another one I can't stop thinking about, and another game that I really want to get to the table here very soon. Okay, and game number 3 is another game that I've only played one time, and I guess that's not necessarily true. I didn't even play through the game for a complete session because it is a longer game, but we played through most of it and I just had a blast and can't stop thinking about it and can't wait till the next time we get it to the table to play a full game of it. And this game is actually a game that Nick from Talking Cardboard owns on his personal shelf, War of the Ring, 2nd edition. War of the Ring, wow, it's a game I have been hearing about for many years. Being a part of this hobby and all the great games you hear about, War of the Ring is definitely a game that shines through and that kind of penetrates its way through the whole hobby itself that you hear about more often than other titles, especially for its age. I know 2nd edition isn't necessarily that old, but 1st edition is getting up there in years, and specifically the 2nd edition is the one that we got to the table at Nick's house. But War of the Ring, it really is the Lord of the Rings in a box. A lot of fun. It is only 1 versus 1. I guess you can play 2 versus 2 because my brother Blake and I were on one side and Nick was on the other side. Nick was like the Shadow and Blake and I were the Fellowship of the Ring, trying to get the ring to Mordor and destroy it, or trying to get enough control points on the map before the Shadow team could get their points for taking over different towns and that sort of thing. But it is definitely a massive game, a huge map. It really feels like like it's difficult to move, move from region to region, and it's difficult to take over these different towns and cities, and it's even more difficult to get that ring even close to Mount Doom, to take that ring down. So I think it's called Mount Doom. I'm not like a huge Lord of the Rings fan, but this game really got me thinking about it, just for not only the theme and how the theme pours through, but also the gameplay is so cool as well. Each hero in this game has their own unique card with their different abilities on it, so everybody feels completely asymmetric, and also the different factions from the different regions on both sides feel completely unique in their combat strength and what they're good at, and also just all the different tracks that are going on too. Like you're trying to track whether or not you're mustering up enough or spreading the word enough about the Shadow People to other neighboring towns to try to get their forces onto your side, so then you can really bolster more people to help your initiative and help what you're doing and that sort of thing. It's just really cool. And if you move too quickly and too fast, you're kind of revealing yourself and revealing where you're at, where you're currently at on the map. So then the shadow player has more of a chance to take you down, and you just have to really try to. You have a sense and a feel that you're trying to stay concealed while getting that ring to Mordor, and then also maybe trying to control different towns and regions and trying to persuade people as you are walking through with the Fellowship too. So just a ton of theme, a ton of great mechanisms, feels very strategic, but very crunchy and long, and definitely a hard game to not only get to the table, but also have enough time for. But I am really longing for the opportunity to play a complete game of this one. So that is War of the Ring 2nd Edition. All right, and the number 2 game on my list is another game that this same brother of mine owns. And yes, this game we actually have gotten to the table, I think, twice now. So it barely meets my criteria for this list. I still don't own the game. I still think about it all the time. I still have only played it 2 times or less, so it's meeting all the criteria to add onto this list. And it's such an expensive game and kind of hard to get my hands on that I've been kind of going back and forth on whether or not I want to order this directly from the publisher and get my own copy. But like I said, my brother already owns a copy of it, so I don't really feel the need to have my own copy. But I really wish I did, because the game is that great of a game to have in my personal collection. And this game is Moonrakers. Moonrakers is just fantastic, a huge surprise out of left field for me. I was not expecting to enjoy this game as much as I did the times that we have gotten it played, but Moonrakers is just a very simple deck building game that you're trying to get unique cards to your deck, to shuffle them in, to better and better your hand of cards for these different resources or symbols. And at its core, you're just trying to build your deck with the correct symbols to try to defeat these missions. And it kind of reminds me of like 1,000 times, million times better version of Munchkin in a way. And I hate to even kind of compare it to Munchkin, because Munchkin is such kind of an old design that people kind of cut down nowadays. And I don't know. I mean, Munchkin had its place and had its time in the spotlight, and I did enjoy Munchkin back in the day, almost 15 years ago now or so. But this game just has similar feel to it, to where you're going out on these missions. Like in Munchkin, you're kind of kicking down the doors and seeing what's happening. In Moonrakers, you are going out on a mission, but you can also, like in Munchkin, you can ask for help, or you can try to go on the mission solo and see if you can kind of complete it on your own. What's really cool with the mission cards is that each mission has its own victory point value on the card, as well as its own resources on the card. So you can really negotiate with not only one person, but maybe everybody around the table on, hey, I'll give you 1 victory point out of the 2 if you help me, and hey, I'll give you all the resources if you help me, and as long as you guys let me get 1 victory point out of it, I'm fine. And let's tackle this as a team and see if we can defeat this mission together as a team. Because if you can complete the mission as a team, then everybody gets the rewards that were promised to one another before going out on the mission. So it's really cool. Or if you feel like you have a good enough hand of cards to tackle the mission by yourself, then go for it. Then you get all the rewards listed on the mission card, all for yourself. But a lot of the missions are really difficult to defeat on your own. So it really comes down to obviously the deck building and trying to make your deck better, but really comes down to more of the negotiation and the teamwork, and just kind of the table talk in this game is just really fun, and almost feels like a party style game, which is really cool too. It's like it feels like a gamer's party game, and I really appreciate that, because I think now, this far into my board gaming career or hobby, I really do like party games a lot, but there's not a ton of them out there that have kind of that more like gamery strategic feel, but still kind of fall within that party vibe, and a game that you can play with a lot of people. So Moonrakers definitely fits that bill. In a game that, wow, just I can't stop thinking about it, and would love to have it in my personal collection. So there you have it. That's Moonrakers. All right, and finally, the number one game that I just can't stop thinking about. And another game that I've only played one time. I don't own the game. It's a very expensive Kickstarter or now GameFound exclusive game that Ryan from Talking Cardboard owns. And he brought it to game night the other night. We got it played one time. Actually, no, we did play it twice. We played it 2 times in a row, back to back, because it was that much fun. But a game that has a lot of similarities to Spirit Island, but it's a competitive game. And this game is another MOBA style too. So it's got that multiplayer online, battle arena with, little minions and heroes running around the board, and definitely a style that I'm just not too familiar with and not too interested in, but it just really grabbed me and pulled me in and got me excited to play it the entire time. There was never like a lull or like a dull moment. So this game is Guards of Atlantis II. And I know there's a ton of talk online with all these reviewers just hyping up the game and pumping it up, but for good reason, people. I'm telling you, this game is just fantastic, and it's just unfortunate that it's like a GameFound exclusive game that they're not ever sending out to retail, because the game is that good. And yes, it's a very expensive game if you back it with all the expansions, which I did, but the expansions is what gives you all the different factions that you can play with. Like I said, this is a competitive game, and it's got the MOBA style where it's got these minions in the center of the map that you're trying to control, and you're also trying to push them back towards your opponent's base, because if you can have either the minions control your opponent's base, or you can take out enough heroes to bring them down to basically injured enough to where you win. There's a couple different ways to win this game, but both of the win conditions feel extremely strategic. But the asymmetric factions and the tightness of the gameplay, the fact that you're only playing one card face down every turn and you're all flipping them up simultaneously to try to just squeeze out 1 or 2 little actions and try to manipulate the board state and try to outguess your opponent and outwit your opponents, is just, it definitely reminds me of like a Spirit Island feel, but in a competitive game instead of that cooperative nature. So this, if you're looking for a game that is very strategic, very difficult, asymmetric factions that feel completely different. The card play, it's simultaneous card play, so you always feel involved. There's not a lot of downtime, and you love the feeling of how difficult that Spirit Island feel is, but you want that in more of a competitive team game. Then Guards of Atlantis 2 is where it's at. This game, I'm telling you, is just fantastic, and I can't get enough of it. I can't stop thinking about it. I did end up backing it, and it's not going to come until another year from now, unfortunately, but I did back it myself with all the expansions, all the extra factions and things like that, because each faction is that different and adds that much more depth to the game, where I can't see the game being as fun without at least getting a couple of the expansions. So I did get all the expansions with it. But having said that, yeah, there's not much really else to say about Guards of Atlantis 2. The hype is real, people. The hype is definitely real. It is a fantastic game, and definitely not going to be for everyone. Like, if you don't like the really heavy strategy, crunchy, tight gameplay where you don't really feel like you're doing a lot on your turn, if you don't like that, then you might not enjoy this game. But if you do like how you feel just very handcuffed with what you can do. Like, you can only do a couple little things and you're trying to outmaneuver your opponents, and it's just, if you like that depth and strategy, you are just going to love this game. So that is Guards of Atlantis 2. All right, and there you have it. That is today's list for the games I just can't stop thinking about that I don't own, and I've only played 2 times or less, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I didn't want to throw any games on this list that I've played multiple times, or the games that I own, or that sort of thing, because this would have just kind of turned into like my 5 favorite games of all time list, pretty much. and I wanted to bring out these games that are kind of unique and ones that I don't have in my collection and that I haven't played a ton and that I still can't stop thinking about. I just thought that would be a really fun idea to kind of bring out there to you all. And if you've played any of these games, leave them in the comments below on how you enjoyed it, or maybe how you found the game evolve or get worse or better over time with more than 2 plays. That could definitely be a thing too. Maybe I'm just getting overly excited over these games for no reason because I have only played it once or twice, and maybe that wears off over time. Maybe that excitement wears off. So maybe that you could leave that in the comments below too, and get me a little less hyped about these games. So as always, if you like what we're doing here on the channel, feel free to subscribe, like the video, and until next time, you all enjoy gaming.